It's October, the month where days become shorter and the nights become longer. The warm summer air is replaced with a sharp, piercing wind. Halloween is near, a season where shadows and unknown noises feel a bit more wary and uncomfortable than they used to be. Shadows appear to be stretched further and rooms appear to be darker. The creaks in your home feel more ominous, as if there are phantom footsteps wandering around your floors. And the feeling that something is off. You know you are home. You know the doors are locked. But you can't dismiss the feeling that something is watching you. You pick up your cell phone to text someone, anyone, just to not feel alone, but you can't. Your phone doesn't have service, and your Wi-Fi has a network connection error. You walk towards your router. Everything's plugged in, but the power button's off. The lights in your home work, but the router won't turn on. You realize this is starting to become a modern-day nightmare. Nightmares are supposed to be about mythical monsters or unrealistic scenarios, not this. Then it hit you. Someone is watching you. Someone is in your home, but not physically. Someone is in your network, and they are in control of your home internet, knowing your every move, every device, everything. These are the cyber Halloween horrors.
Hi, and welcome Cyber Defenders. My name is Reanna Schultz, and I'll be your aide today as I guide you through exploring different learning opportunities through CyberSpeak Labs. To help ensure our lab is growing, I encourage you all to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. I always say, one of the most amazing things about being part of the cybersecurity community is how we can learn and grow from one another, which is why you're here. So during your time here, it's important for you to know that the lab is designed for us to collaborate and to learn. Today, we're going to put on our lab coats and learn about a cyber incident that left the world feeling haunted by a phantom within their network. Let us use our laboratory instruments to understand the science behind these major cyber Halloween horrors. Defenders, as we continue to learn more about this event, it's important to think and hypothesize on the following. How can you protect your home office? And should internet service provider companies provide awareness or a pamphlet about home security? Should ISP companies mandate security requirements during installation of home Wi-Fi? Now that we understand today's assignment, let's put on our white coats and enter the lab to learn. It's October 2023. A time where the fall season was celebrated by watching Wednesday Addams, and discussion topics about new pumpkin spice consumer releases was essentially the highlight of the day. Pretty much October of 2023, people were buying almost pumpkin spice flavored everything. I literally mean everything. Oreos, almonds, cream cheese, whatever. I mean, seriously, this is a moment in history where there were pumpkin spice smelling trash liners. So besides people eating pumpkin spice everything and watching Wednesday Addams while smelling their trash cans, there was another trending topic. This topic was about working from home. After the post-COVID era, working from home expectations had shifted across many countries and companies. According to the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics, 35% of employed people in the United States worked from home some days of the week, if not entirely remote. Which means home offices with internet and Wi-Fi are a must to support these remote work initiatives. And of course, keeping up with the latest episode of Wednesday Addams. However, on October 25th, something strange happened. This was first spotted by different cyber researchers browsing public forums. They noticed a trending topic. And no, this was not over pumpkin spice. People were complaining about their routers not working. How suddenly they had Wi-Fi and then nothing. The support pages for these reports even had customers do basic troubleshooting to hard reset these routers. Nothing seemed to work. And we're not just talking about 20 to 40 routers here. No, this was an estimate of over 600,000 routers that would just not turn on. You can almost say this was a very unexpected trick that led to a very disastrous treat. What made these complaints even more interesting on these troubleshooting forums is that all the impacted users were using similar gateway models. So these models included ActionTech T3200s, ActionTech T3260s, in addition to the Sage MCOM F5380s. These models were serviced through an internet service provider called Windstream. And this was not always that company's name, but with the result of a merger in 2006 with another company called Alltel Corporation, this resulted to the rebrand of Windstream. Windstream is also known to offer phone and TV services in addition to their internet packages. And what a big sales factor for this company is that they offered ISP services in rural areas where other competitors did not. This led to Windstream being one of the number one ISP providers for the Midwest, which by 2021, the company had over 1.1 million broadband customers. By 2023, had an estimate of a $4 billion revenue. And of course, by 2024, Windstream was later merged with the Unity Group to provide fiber internet for their US-based customers. Now, from the research I gathered, Windstream did not have a public history of being impacted by cyber breaches. Now, this doesn't always mean that there has not been a breach or an incident, but again, this is all based on open source information that I've gathered. However, on October 25th, cyber researchers from Black Lotus Labs noticed the trend of complaints regarding home routers, specifically on Reddit, where majority of the complaints that were from people claimed to be Windstream customers. In fact, one customer was asking for assistance on Reddit with the following post, quote, "So I've had a T3200 modem for a while, but today something happened that I had never experienced before. The internet light is showing a solid red. What does this mean and how do I fix it?" End quote. Another Redditor claimed it was pretty clear that the router was the problem. Even after going through the troubleshooting steps Windstream chatbot gave, subscribers on that thread claimed to be impacted to show the trend that they were able to get a hold of customer service, go through the troubleshooting steps, but then they were later told to replace the router with a new one to restore internet access. And this story gets even more eerie. This outage lasted 3 days. 3 days, where 600,000 small office and home office routers in the Midwest region were taken offline, and they all had to be replaced. All of them. That were all led, at least identified, to be traced back to a single ISP, which was Windstream. However, news outlets had attempted to reach out to Windstream regarding these customer complaints and outages. Windstream claims that they were not impacted by cyber breach. But a few months after that incident, Black Lotus Labs were one of the primary cyber researchers to investigate this incident. They had revealed that a botnet was responsible for bricking these modems that caused this 3-day outage. Lotus Labs had discovered through public scan data that 49% of the impacted ISPs all had traffic from the same ASN during this time period. And if you're not familiar with an ASN, it's used to identify a single routing policy through different IP prefixes. So, Defenders. How was it done? Who is behind this massive breach? Well, Defenders, we will find out after we return back from a quick break. Enjoy the fall weather, your pumpkin spice latte, your driving to work, and we'll return back to our lab assignment.
Start.
All right, welcome back, Cyber Defenders. So, going back to the real question, who is the monster in the mask that caused all of this chaos? The blunt honesty? Nobody knows. In fact, Black Lotus Labs, being one of the main threat researchers on this incident, claims they could not even find the vulnerability that was used for the initial access to break all of these routers. This is a even more puzzling statement, because this leads to other questions and assumptions like, did the threat actors exploit a unknown zero day? Did the threat actors somehow gain administration access? It's a year later now in 2024, and the identity and how it was even happened is still a cold case to this day. But Black Lotus Labs did shine some light onto the situation. Even though there are unanswered questions, Black Lotus Labs was able to answer one, and that was what happened to the routers. In fact, researchers named this incident the Pumpkin Eclipse, due to the mass amount of routers going offline and the attack during the holiday season. Honestly, if it was up to me, this would have been a fantastic opportunity to have another pumpkin spice consumer product. Think about it. We can all have pumpkin spice vulnerability patches or stickers. Prime opportunity. Nobody took this marketing idea. But Black Lotus Labs claims during their investigation, they collected telemetry that led them to the discovery of a malware called Chalubo. Cyber researchers claim this malware to be part of the Mirai family. Now, Mirai is a Japanese word that means future, but the malware was originally named after the anime series Mirai Nikki. Now, this type of botnet malware has been active in the wild since 2016 and was originally created at the time by 3 college students: 20-year-old Paris Shaw, 21-year-old Dalton Norman, and 20-year-old Josiah White. Eventually, the development of the botnet led to a DDoS attack in October of 2016 on a DNS provider. This attack resulted to tens of millions IP addresses to be discovered through lookup commands. These IP addresses resulted to devices such as residential cameras, gateways, baby monitors, and other devices that were public-facing on the network. Once that IP was collected, the malware is designed to list the passwords on these devices to be controlled remotely. Eventually, the developers, Paras, Josiah, and Dalton, came forward to the Department of Justice, and they had pleaded guilty for cybercrime cases related to these attacks. However, due to their agreement to assist with other cyber cases through the FBI, the developers had minor repercussions, such as just getting community service. Now, by the year 2017 rolled around, the developers had released the code for this malware, and within a year, there were already so many variants identified. Now, how was this even tied back to being the Pumpkin Eclipse campaign, especially with there being so many different variants? Well, one thing that Black Lotus Labs claims was the attack had very similar behaviors and traits from all of these different variants, which consisted of discovery of public-facing IPs, discovery of bad, poor password management. Of course, that also led to the unauthorized access with administration permissions and the whole bricking of modem. Now, Black Lotus stated in their research that the first stage in the attack chain is for the threat actor to use their quote-unquote zombie or bot computers to deploy a script named get_source_PC, which would call to a second payload that would be deployed for the primary malware. How this primary malware was executed is known to bypass detections by using encryption when communicating any of the collected findings back to the threat actor server. This is where that threat actor would harvest the stolen data. However, even though this attack chain was clever and it bypassed security detections, it missed a key component of establishing persistence. From the claims by Black Lotus Labs, essentially, if a user restarted their router, this would interrupt the attack chain, and it would have to start all over. But what still remains another mystery about this attack is how the routers were bricked. Still to this day, this adds a cold case mystery of this attack. Nobody knows how these routers were bricked. There's no evidence of a payload on these devices that would cause the disturbance of service of these routers. There was no identifying factor as to the purpose of this attack. And then also, who did it? Eventually, this campaign turned into more of a ghost story, rather than something that we can have a lessons learned or even dissect further to understand. Now, as a disclaimer for all listeners, it's important that you research your country's laws against cyber research and other hacking and cyber activity considerations. Failure to adhere to the laws and other administrations can lead to punishment and other obligations suited for the crime. You might not get lucky with community service. Now, you can always find more information about your country's guidelines and laws by visiting their government, legal database, or cybersecurity agency's website. It is always advised to discuss with legal professionals for official guidance and breakdown with these laws for further questions. I am not a legal counselor, but I think it's important to understand where to find information and no limitations enforced by the law. As defenders, it is our job to learn about past breaches or cyber events and understand how did they occur and what could have been done to prevent this. Even though events like this one discussed today, where we might not have understood the full story, there's still areas of lessons that can be learned. And because of these mysterious incidents, security is most likely considered different with ISPs today than it was prior to the cyber incidents like the Pumpkin Eclipse. However, what are some questions and takeaways you got from this research? Are there things you would consider differently or consider when you were potentially shopping for an ISP for your home? Would you do more research as to maybe if they were previously hacked or had a recent breach? Now, if you are curious, here are my laboratory questions and ideas how this could potentially be mitigated or even just discussion topics. The first one I had is, what was the common theme with all these impacted users? Did they all have bad passwords and usernames? Was the default admin password ever changed when they originally had their modem set up? And this leads to my second question. If an ISP company was impacted, to where this degree of home offices were compromised? Would this eventually lead to a lawsuit from the victims? Think about it. Remote workers, farmers, a lot of home businesses could have lost time to work and make money. Would this be up to the ISP company to repay the financial loss for that day? And lastly, why is basic cyber practices like password management and segmentation not part of a chatbot service? I feel like this is something that can easily be incorporated for most users trying to set up their own internet service. I also wonder if ISP companies should enforce to have specific cyber audits, like banks or hospitals do. That way, when major events like this occur, there's enough solid evidence to provide a confident answer if an ISP is truly impacted, or was there just really not enough visibility to provide a confident answer to the media? Now, in your opinion, what are ways security should be introduced in a home? Or what can an ISP company technician or chatbot provide to incorporate cyber awareness for customers? What do you think, defenders and lab coats? Do you have any other questions or ideas that you'd like to share? If so, I encourage you to post them in the comments. This is why learning from others is so important. The cyber community is filled with passionate cyber defenders like yourself who are experts in different corners. Let me know what you think. Thank you all for joining me in the lab today and becoming a cyber defender and lab coats. I am Reanna Schultz, your lab aide and podcast host for this episode. If you have any suggestions for guest collaborations or cyber topics, you can submit them by going to cyberspeaklabs.com. Thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you in the lab again soon.